This year's new hires are all also high school graduates, huh? It's that time of the year again to welcome the new employees. My boss, Nina, sighs as she looks at their resumes. She is always like this. My name is Tom. I am a 31-year-old company employee. I graduated from high school, and right after, I got a job and changed jobs 5 years ago to join my current company. This company is an IT company, and the management team is relatively young. The CEO is 45 years old. Basically, I think I am blessed with the employees around me, but there is one person that I just can't get along with, and that's my boss. Her name is Nina, and she's the same age as me. She's the department manager, and she is my boss, and we went to high school together. Nina's father is one of the city council member, and she would always brag about that. We were in the same class, but we didn't get along because our personalities don't suit at all. I don't really know why we ended up meeting up at the same job. And because she was so arrogant, she still loves to look down on people. She used to brag about her parents being city council members, but now she wants to always be on top, education-wise. And so, she is always saying, I graduated from a famous prestigious university, but many of the employees here are only high school graduates. It is true that many of them are high school graduates, but I think many of them are excellent employees because our CEO and the executives are headhunting them. Actually, it was Nina who's unable to do her job properly. I wonder why she is in her current position as the manager. This is just my guess, but I suspect that Nina's father, being a member of the city council, has something to do with this. I don't really want to get involved, but Nina, who is not at all liked by the employees in the company, seems to have no one to talk to, so she would talk to me often. Her attitude of, I'm the one talking to you, annoys me again, but then again, she's my boss, so I try to respond to her in an amicable manner. And it is that time of the year again to welcome the new employees. Some are high school graduates, and some are graduates from vocational schools. Some of them were headhunted from other companies. Whether she knew that or not, Nina was only interested in their academic backgrounds and asked, This year's new employees are all high school graduates too, huh? Why don't they hire good college graduates like me? As she sighed. I would like to tell her that there are people who are better than someone like her with only an academic background, but it would be a hassle for me to go through all that trouble. And besides, I wouldn't want to cause any troubles too, since that'll be a huge hassle too. And most importantly, I didn't want to bother talking about it, so I assumed that Nina was talking to herself and I ignored her. The new employees were excellent, brilliant people. In particular, Leah, a 29-year-old who had joined the company through a headhunter, had a good reputation and was getting along well with the people around her. Nina apparently didn't like that. Hey, Tom, who is she? Nina speaks to me casually. I never really called her by her name in high school since I mostly avoided her, but for some reason, she has been calling my name very frequently since I came here. To be frank, I don't really like that either. I once tried to ask her to not call my name so casually like that, but she would say, It doesn't matter, and I'm your boss. After that, Nina began to make eye contact with Leah, saying, She's just a high school graduate, but she's so cocky. She thinks she's better than me. But to be honest, everyone around me likes Leah, who is clearly better at her job than Nina, and no one agrees with Nina at all. Of course, neither do I, but for some reason, Nina seems to think that I am on her side. It's a huge hassle to be in between like that, so as usual, I try to stay out of Nina's life and avoid her. One day, however, I was assigned to a document that needed to be confirmed by Nina. I didn't want her to nag and ask further questions, so I prepared the document perfectly and went to submit it to Nina. Nina took the documents in her hand and said, "Well, I think that's good. You did a good job for a high school graduate. I'll fix the rest on my end." How does me being a high school graduate relate to the work I'm doing now? Besides, I didn't make this document to be fixed. I made it perfectly. I was getting irritated, but I knew there was no point in talking back, so I kept my mouth shut and left. A short time later, I went to the break room for a cup of coffee and heard Nina yelling. I was startled and approached to the direction of Nina's voice to find that she was yelling at Leah. "That's what high school graduates like you are like. You're totally useless." Nina's voice was echoing throughout the room. When I approached to stop her, Leah began to talk back. Do we really need to talk about my academic background now? And besides, this is a matter that the CEO has asked me to handle, and he has left it entirely up to me. You may have a different opinion, but I will take responsibility for it, so please, just leave it to me. Almost everyone in the company knows that Nina's parents are members of the city council, and whenever something happens, she always brings up her parents' names, so no one can argue back with her. So, maybe Leah didn't know that. Sure enough, Nina said, "Don't you know that my father is a senator? The client you're handling is very close with my father, so I should be the one in charge," to her. Hearing that, Leah continued, "So what? It has nothing to do with your education or your parents, right?" And I quickly approached them to stop their argument. Then Nina noticed me and said, "Tom, you are on my side rather than this high school graduate, right?" Nina really doesn't make any sense, and she's not being logical at all. I didn't even know why they were even arguing in the first place. As I was puzzled, Leah explained the situation to me in general. Apparently, Nina had told Leah to change the client of the project she was in charge of with another different client. The new client was said to be an acquaintance of Nina's father, and Nina might be trying to take credit once she gets to take on the project. After grasping the situation, I sighed and said to Nina, "Ma'am, this is a project that the CEO has entrusted to her directly. And even if she doesn't have any network like you, I'm sure she'll succeed." Nina looked surprised, as if she didn't expect me to argue back. "What? Are you going against me?" "I'm not going against you, I'm just making a good argument." When I said that, Nina started laughing. "You're being somewhat cold to me today, huh? Are you jealous of me? You don't like the fact that I was talking to a male employee earlier, do you?" Those words gave me the goosebumps. Moreover, Nina began to caress my hair. "Come on now, you should cheer up." I unintentionally brushed off her hand and backed away. That's not true at all. She misunderstood big time. What she did was disgusting, so I wanted her to stop what she was saying and doing. Forgetting that Nina was my boss, I said, "Not at all. It seems like you're misunderstanding, but I really don't care about you at all." Nina looked at me as she began to smile and left the break room laughing. I explained to Leah that Nina and I were actually high school classmates, and that she seemed to have misunderstood something. "I'm sorry, it's my fault." That's what Leah would say, but I shook my head. This led me to discuss about Nina's sexual harassment to me with Leah and my colleagues. That night, after I had made it so clear that I wasn't interested in her at all, I received a call from Nina. She asked me to have dinner with her. When I declined, she asked me when I would be available. "I'm quite busy with my personal life, you see." When I said so, Nina replied, "Busy? You were at the darts bar today, weren't you? You're just killing time at a place like that because you're bored, right?" I turned pale when I heard this. How in the world did she even know that? I like to play darts, and I do have a favorite darts bar. I've made friends there, so I often go there after work. But I have never talked about this to Nina at work. Could it be that she was stalking me or something? I was too afraid to think about it any further, so I said that in any case, I don't have time to go out to dinner with her and hung up the phone. The next day, I did not want to see Nina, but I could not miss work. When I had no choice but to come to work, Nina angrily called me up. "Why would you hang up on me like that?" she said angrily. "It wasn't a work-related call," is what I responded coldly, and Nina sighed profusely. Then she pulls out the document I submitted yesterday. "This was rejected by the client, so you better be responsible for it." Huh? Why? The document I made yesterday was perfect since I incorporated the client's opinion. So why is it being rejected? If we can't make the deal with this client, this would damage the company a lot. My mind went blank. While I was standing there without saying anything, Leah came to me. "Please look at this, ma'am." Nina pushed the documents back to me and turned to Leah. I returned to my seat with the document. Oh no, what should I do? That was the only thought going around in my head. After a while, Leah, who had returned from Nina's seat, called me over. She told me to bring the documents and took me out to the break room. "Is that really the document that you made, Tom?" I did not understand what Leah was trying to say. I've heard from some people who've had their documents rewritten by Nina without their permission and was forced to take blame for her mistakes. When she said that, that's when it hit me. Come to think of it, Nina said she would fix it. Could it be? When I checked the documents, they had been rewritten as Leah had said. There was no way the other party would be satisfied with this. But how could I prove it? That night, I called my other colleagues and we went out for a drink. We gathered at a private bar and began discussing our strategy. As I had expected, it was not only me and Leah who were being interfered with our own work by Nina. We made a plan and left the bar. Leah, who was going in the same direction as me, decided to go home together. Then, after each of us got home, I received a phone call from Nina. "You were out drinking with that high school graduate? What the hell do you think you're doing?" She yelled at me hysterically as soon as I answered the phone. "I was just drinking with everyone in the company." "It's none of your business who or where I was drinking with, is it? Besides, can you please stop these calls already?" Even if I tell her that, Nina wouldn't understand what I was saying. "You're coming to the company's drinking party tomorrow, right? Let's talk there." When I said that, Nina laughed. "Who would go to a party for the new employees who are all high school graduates? It's not like I welcome them to the company, and it's a waste of time and money." Nina still seemed to want to talk about something, but I hung up the phone. "Okay, well, I'll see you later." The next day after work, most of the employees started to move to the bar restaurant where we had made reservation. I moved to the bar restaurant quickly with my colleagues. I got there first and waited for the others to arrive. The CEO of the company arrived, and I thought that was the end of it, but to my surprise, I saw Nina. Nina came up to me and smirked, saying, "I came because you asked me to. I don't welcome the new employees, but I came because I could talk to you, you know." So, this is what I said back to Nina. "Huh? What are you talking about? This is your farewell party, don't you remember?" Then after a moment's pause, Nina said, "Huh?" being all confused. Then the CEO walked up and everyone took notice. "I told you at the morning meeting, or even alone with you before the morning meeting, didn't I? I decided to fire you, so it's going to be a welcome party for the new employees and a farewell party for you. I'm glad the star of the show came." Nina looked dumbfounded. I turned to Nina and said, "You've been fiddling with your phone during the entire morning meeting, so you missed the important stuff. I have already reported to the CEO about everything you did to sabotage our work. Those documents yesterday, you rewrote them, didn't you?" Nina denies it, but I take out my laptop and show her the screen as I said this. "This is what I made. This is the one you rewrote. The data before I submit it to Nina was saved on my computer, so I present it as evidence. Leah also came forward and explained her work that Nina rewrote as well. The other colleagues heard and agreed as they nodded to what we had to say. After explaining, I said this to Nina.
You have not only discredited us, but you have also damaged the company. Besides, what you have done to me is sexual harassment and constitutes stalking. I have already recorded the contents of the phone calls you made to me.
Other colleagues also said,
We have also taken evidence of you, ma'am, caressing Tom's hair and body.
I had discussed Nina's sexual harassment with my colleagues, so when Nina called me out on my own, my colleagues followed me and tried to take a video secretly. Nina seemed to understand what was going on, but for some reason, she looked relaxed. So what? Are you trying to sue me? You guys know who my father is, right? Are you saying you're firing me? Sir, and did you forget who the owner of the company's land is? I didn't know either until just a few days ago, but it seems that our company's land originally belonged to Nina's father, and then our CEO bought it. In the course of that negotiation, the CEO was then asked by Nina's father to hire his daughter and give her a position in the company. The CEO prioritized in buying the land and agreed to do so. So that's why Nina got to be the manager and take advantage of her position like that. When I learned this, I said this to Nina.
I made sure to include all of the client's requests in the documents I submitted the other day, but you went to the trouble of cutting out the parts they requested and they rejected it, didn't they? If you don't do your job properly and all you do is drag us down, you deserve to be fired. And your sexual harassment doesn't help at all. I don't know what you thought you were doing, but what you did was sexual harassment, and following me after I left the company was stalking me, wasn't it? I didn't think you were even following me to the darts bar. For the record, I never even liked you from the beginning, you know.
I said that, and the employees around me laughed. Whoa, I've never seen a stalker before. Not only can you do your job, but you're sexually harassing an employee, and that's disgusting. I laughed too and added the information I had heard from my high school classmates.
And by the way, you brag about your education, but isn't it rumored that you were able to go to that college through the network and the corrupt admissions? And that you didn't graduate, but you dropped out in the end? That's just academic fraud, isn't it?
Then Nina began to panic and said, No, that was my father's idea. I didn't want to go. And she began to make excuses, but I guess that meant she admitted to everything I had said. Then the CEO opened his mouth again.
It is true that the company land was sold by your father, but I officially purchased it. He didn't say anything to me until after I hired you, and I think I've already done the deed enough, don't you think so? Come to think of it, are you sure you don't need to go home?
Then Nina looked annoyed and said, Huh? Then Leah shows Nina the screen of her smartphone and tells her, Your father seems to be in a lot of trouble. On the screen there was an article that said Nina's father was being investigated on suspicion of fraud. Nina turned pale at once and left the bar. Actually, Leah was the CEO's cousin, and she had told the CEO about the troubles we were having with Nina. Even after our strategy meeting, when Leah contacted the CEO, he apologized and said once and for all that he would fire Nina. It seems that the CEO had been thinking about firing Nina for some time. He had planned to fire Nina after resolving the problems she had caused with his business partners, and now that all the relationships had finally been repaired, he decided to fire Nina. So that's why we suddenly decided to hold a welcome and a farewell party all together. The CEO apparently called Nina even before the morning meeting and told her about her getting fired, but Nina seemed to think it was a joke, that she would never be fired. Nina's thought process is beyond my comprehension. The CEO later filed a claim for damages against Nina, claiming that she had caused a great deal of damage to the company. Through a lawyer introduced to me by the CEO, I requested compensation from Nina for the sexual harassment. I have not heard from Nina since then, but her father resigned from the council, and their family house seems to have been sold off. According to a high school classmate, Nina has moved to her mother's family home, which is far away. The CEO said to the employees, "I hope you will continue to help our company grow. I will continue to work hard at this company." Then, just the other day, I had asked Leah to go out with me, and we have now started dating on the premise of marriage. In fact, Leah also likes to play darts, and the two of us now go to our favorite darts bar together. Our work and private lives are more fulfilling and enjoyable than ever.